Natural methods versus unnatural methods. Which one is more effective at balancing your hormones, improving your health, and your quality of life? Watch this.
All right, our next caller is Cole from Wisconsin.
Cole, what's happening? How can we help you?
What's up, guys? How's it going? I appreciate you guys having me on and answering my question. I've kind of spammed it out to all of your platforms over the last week or so I appreciate you getting to me.
Awesome, thanks.
I want to start this a little bit different than the typical thanks for all you do. So to keep it short and sweet, Sal, I really admire how you articulate when educating the audience on the different topics that you guys discuss. Adam, I love how you're authentically yourself and your opinions are your opinions, but you also have no problem admitting when you're wrong. Justin, I resonate with you the most and as what I perceive to be the most reserved one, but when a topic comes up that you're confident in talking about, you jump right in and own it. And then Doug, shout out to you for managing all these big personalities.
Thanks, man.
Right on, dude.
Thanks, dude.
Appreciate that.
Sure. Yep. And also a real quick shout out to my girlfriend for introducing me to your guys' podcast a couple of years ago. You guys have had a really big impact on how I've sort of reshaped my fitness journey. For the first 8 to 10 years of my fitness life, I was the guy in the gym doing way too much, beating my body up 7 days a week, no matter how I was feeling. Now I'm in a place where I listen to my body, and although I'm still in the gym probably 5-6 days a week, 2 or 3 of those days are low intensity mobility type training that I stole from MAPS Performance. So thank you for that.
Right on. Sounds like a keeper.
Yeah. And then, so to get to my question, I recently turned 30 and I wanted to start focusing more on just my overall wellness instead of just focusing on trying to get big, which is where I've been for the last 10 years. I definitely identify with the hard gainer. But I guess I'm just going to approach that as more of like just focusing on my overall strength. I know you guys have talked about in the past how even if your macros and programming and sleep are all right, your results won't be there if you have any hormone imbalances or nutrient deficiencies. So I'm looking for advice on where to start with getting tested with or getting testing done with those things. I basically just want to do a full diagnostics test on my body to check for hormone imbalances, nutrient deficiencies, and also just to get like an idea of my overall gut health, if that's something that I can do.
Yeah.
Some things I've noticed, it's hard for me to put on and keep muscle. I've got some like low energy here and there, and then I can also be moody, which I know Adam relates to. I've heard you guys talk about Dr. Cabral, Regenerative, Transcend, all on your podcast. Do you recommend that I go through one of them, or should I go through my PCP? And also, at what point do I start looking at my metabolism as perhaps being too fast? I don't know that this is for sure a bulk, but based off of like some of the macro calculators I've used, I've been eating like 36 to 3,800 calories a day, and I'm getting stronger, but the scale hasn't gone up at all. So just looking for like overall thoughts and opinions on all that.
All right. I would go Dr. Stephen Cabral.
For sure. What's he called, Sal? What's he call the Big Four or the Big Five? What is he?
He's got I can't remember. There's 4 or 5 specific tests that he'll do. That'll look at things like inflammation, they'll look at gut health, they'll look at stress, markers of stress on the body. So I would do that. I would also go to mphormones.com and I would schedule a hormone lab test for 2 reasons. One, I don't think, based off what you're saying, you have, plus your age, you just turned 30, you're probably okay. But it's a good idea to get a baseline, because if everything is good, and then when you turn 40 and you notice big changes, you can reference back to the time you got your hormones tested and you can see where they were. Also, you could do the things that Dr. Stephen Cabral's team tells you to do and see how that affects key hormones like testosterone, for example. So if you did those 2 things, you would have all your bases totally covered. And then from there, you can follow the protocols. Dr. Stephen Cabral's team is going to go the natural route, and that's always the best place to start. Adding exogenous hormones, that's the second option. That's when all the natural stuff isn't helping. You're at some deficiencies that are causing declines in quality of life, in which case exogenous hormones then can become, the risk versus benefit starts to look pretty favorable. But I would start with Dr. Stephen Cabral and get a baseline hormone lab test, and then take it from there, follow the advice of Dr. Stephen Cabral's team, and then get another hormone test maybe 3 months later and see how things have changed. But that would be the place to start. And if there's anything that you could modify or change, one of the tests that the functional medicine practitioners at Dr. Stephen Cabral's team, one of those tests will show you. It'll tell you, what you need to focus on if there's a nutrient deficiency, because they do mineral testing, they do, stress testing. You'll be able to see how to optimize yourself naturally, for sure.
So valuable. I think that one of my favorite things that we've got to do in the last 8 years is to link up with both the teams that you're referring to. And even all the years that I've been doing this, I get so excited every time I get to actually sit down and talk to both of them, because the insight that I get. I mean, I'm still learning to this day, and every time I get shocked or I learn something new after we go through one of these tests. Also, take advantage of the forums. I don't know if you're on there yet or not already, but part of them being partnered with us, we've created 2 free forums on Facebook that have got their team in there working. So you could literally go in there and ask whatever question, and they're very responsive. So both those forums are incredibly valuable. I know we don't promote them or talk a lot about them on the show, but definitely take advantage of being in there, especially once you go through the testing and all the questions you may have, or alternatives like, hey, I'm trying X, Y, and Z. Is there something else I can do to help these levels out? And they're an even better resource than we are for those specific things.
Doug, what's the website for Dr. Stephen Cabral? Is it Stephen Cabral?
.com.
Okay, so StephenCabral.com, Stephen spelled with a PH.
Got it. So is that different than the mphormones.com?
Yes. mphormones.com, you're going to get, that's where you're working with hormone specialists getting a hormones test. Dr. Stephen Cabral's team is all functional medicine. So they're looking at inflammatory markers, mineral tests, nutrient deficiencies, and they're going to work with you on, they'll use supplements, but everything's natural. There's no exogenous hormones, nothing like that. The hormone test, I think, is important just to get a baseline, and also to see how the natural changes may affect your hormones. Worst case scenario, which I don't think is the case because of your age and your history of exercise, worst case scenario, you're in a position where, the natural means aren't helping. You have some kind of a hormone deficiency that's out of range. It's causing, quality of life to decline, in which case then you use, medical treatments. But I would do both. If you're looking to optimize everything, I would do both.
But that order you outlined specifically is so important, and I wish everybody can listen to this in terms of going that route first to find any underlying issue, and this could be any kind of autoimmune underlying issue. This could be inflammation. This could be a deficiency. But to tackle that, a lot of times will be transformative on its own, which then you'll feel and experience in terms of how your hormones will just naturally balance themselves out from that. So, but to that point of just getting blood work done, I think having that baseline, knowing exactly where you are, to be able to navigate from there. So the combo of both is a powerful thing I wish I had for my clients back when I trained.
Yeah, that's great. That was one thing that I was concerned about, is I don't have any sort of baseline. So even if there was some sort of deficiency, I wouldn't even know. So I think it's a good point that having that baseline for when I do turn 35, 40 sometime in the future is a good place to start at the very least.
No, this is perfect. Good timing too.
Yeah, I'd love to hear your feedback after you go through. It's always interesting, somebody who's into health, fitness, take care of themselves, your age, and then gets these tests done to see how enlightening it was for them.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. That's super helpful. I appreciate that.
All right,
awesome.
man.
Cool.
Thanks for calling in.
Yep,
definitely. Thanks, guys. Keep up the good work.
Yeah, I want to emphasize the doing things with lifestyle naturally is always optimal. Always optimal. That doesn't mean, however, that it's always going to work. It often does.
Oh, look what happened to me.
That's right.
I spent almost 2 years going the natural route after I came off of testosterone, working my ass off. And I saw some, but not enough for me to be like, this is how I want to feel for the rest of my life, which is what led me down that route.
Because the key with using hormones exogenously is it's a risk versus benefit reward. Nothing's as healthy as having great hormone levels naturally. You can't even perfectly copy them with exogenous hormones. It doesn't work that way. Testosterone, exogenous testosterone isn't going to hit your body identically to how your body produces testosterone, for example. That being said, if it's low, you're doing everything naturally, you're exercising, you're eating right, and usually this happens to men over the age of 40, especially if they've used anabolic steroids in the past or some underlying condition or situation they can't figure out. If it's low, then exogenous testosterone is a game changer. But the natural route's always first. Always do that first, especially if you're young. I mean, if you're under 30, you can make some pretty profound differences to your hormones and how you feel just by figuring out what you're lacking, right? Just by figuring out the things that you need to supplement with or lifestyle changes.